The question is, how do you start as a parent? How do you start telling stories to your children? Well, you already are every time you talk to them, right? And a lot of you already have stories that you tell. Maybe you're reading books to your kids, or you're just talking off the top of your head or making stories up. It's all great. Children need 1,000 hours of early literacy prior to kindergarten to be good readers. Why do we want kids to be good readers? So they'll read more, so they'll absorb more information. So for so many reasons, it's just so great. And when you read a book, you're whittling away those 1,000 hours. And when you tell stories that are not in books, you are also whittling away at those 1,000 hours, because the tone of your voice, eye contact, the new vocabulary you're going to be offering your young child, unwittingly, because it just comes out in the story, is all part and parcel of early literacy enhancement. It all leads to early literacy enhancement. So it's every bit as good as book reading. Telling stories. So your question was, how do you get started? And then I think you said that you already read stories. And then you, I think, said, how do do I tell him stories about when he was born? The answer is yes, do it all, do everything you're doing. But this is a new thing, or a third thing, if you will. Telling true stories of your childhood. Things that happened to you, where you start with a story starter phrase, like, this is the one I always used, forever, okay? The next story of my childhood that you've never ever heard before is about the time when the kids are going, what's it going to be? And I have no idea what it's going to be. But fortunately, the mind thinks in pictures, so say 90% of neuroscientists, which is very handy for storytelling, because you think of something, you would just picture anything from your past. Maybe you were their age, maybe you're older. One I like to use as an example is, I used to have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to feed the pigs or feed the sheep. And they, then I would just go quiet. What did you feed the sheep? I'll say, I'm glad you asked. That's your next story. So now I'm up to story number 2, all from that same story starter, because I pictured something in my mind, because I looked at a clock or something. And so then I say, well, we fed them corn and some other kind of oats thing. We got it Zamzows. I don't remember exactly, but I know we gave them, I have to carry a bucket to them. What kind of bucket was it? I'm glad you asked, because that's your third story. The bucket was this rubber bucket, had a handle, you put the food in it, and you carry it down there. Did you give the pigs water? I am really glad you asked, because that's your fourth story. And you're only 4, so that's your last story. I did give them water, and sometimes the water would freeze, and we had to take hot water and try to unthaw the water in the pipes so we could give the pigs water. What happened next? I'm sorry, you're 4, so you got to wait until tomorrow night, but you'll get your 4 stories tomorrow. Good night. Okay, so what did you just accomplish? You taught the family history, heritage, and culture through your eyes, what you experienced. How many children today, on this day you're telling this story, or I won't say ever, that's a little extreme, but how many children have a parent who's going to tell them things about their childhood, which are really going to reveal things about the child themselves, because your story is their story, is your story is their story, right? In the sacred hoop of storytelling, right? And if you will. And so you're going to reveal a lot of your quirks or things that run in the family these days, and that's why everyone's so good at whatever it is, thawing out, frozen pipes with hot water, it all goes back to those days. So that short story, the time it takes you to tell 4 quick stories, if you're really pushing it, if you're really going fast, is about the time it would take to read a, Berenstain Bears book or Pete the Cat book or something. So it counts toward early literacy enhancement. And you get the bonus of history, heritage, community history, heritage, culture, your family history. And so over time, if you tell 4 stories a night, And let's say you're going for 7 nights a week, but you hit 5 nights a week. What's 4 times 5? So, you hit 20 stories a week, right? 80 stories a month. So what's that? A lot, 960 or something like that per year. And so those are true stories. How the heck are you going to tell 960 stories per year? And they're all going to be true, And yeah, your child turns 18 and goes to a psychiatrist. And they say, "What's wrong with you?" And they say, "My parents told me 9,000 stories of their childhood. I don't know who I am." That's a ridiculous example. But in fact, they do know who they are because they know, I'm not gonna say they know who they are, but they know where their dad components might snap in because you've told them so many stories. So it's very good. And then of course you're teaching them an appreciation for story sharing, which is a whole different thing. There's great research on story sharing. It's a whole different thing as I'm describing it. There's storytelling, right? And then there's a research on story sharing per se, showing that teenagers, adolescents, who are able to have someone to talk with and share the story of their day, and the person, usually an adult, doesn't have to be, but usually an adult, shares some of their life experiences relative to whatever they're going through. Just a casual conservation way. Think of a grandpa type guy driving in a pickup truck, and the child is adolescent saying, "Yeah." You say to him, "How's it going?" He says, "Oh, pretty good, I don't know." And you get this conversation going, you share stories. People who are able to do that, adolescents who are able to do that, have something like 10 times less stress. A stress reducer from story sharing. So how do you imbue adolescents with a love and desire for story sharing? Perhaps by doing storytelling when they're 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They always want to hear a story and share a story. So there's a lot in there. What's your goal? You want to do all the good things you're supposed to do as a dad, and one of them is reading stories to your kids. Let's read the stories. Read them. You want to, level up your game. Tell stories. What kind of stories? True stories. And make-believe stories, whatever you're doing, that's the platform, add this on top. And so you will never, as I mentioned, you'll never, ever run out of stories, ever. It's impossible. All you have to do is think of something, a picture in your mind from the time you were at the fair and the chickens all got out of the container you were carrying with your prized chickens. You took them, they went everywhere, and everyone had to chase them. Whatever it was, I can picture that because it really happened. And I can go silent, and my children can say, "What happened next?" And I say, "I'm glad you asked. That's your next story. We chased them everywhere." And it just goes from there. All you need is a story starter, something that you can hook the story on, and then you just picture things in your mind, and you let the children prompt you. And of course, if you can, you might think you can do 20 minutes every night. Man, if you can, you get to wear the dad crown, because we should get a dad crown. But that's tough. But I've done it. I've done long nights of stories. But even if you just do 5 Weasley stories for your 5-year-old, or 5 stories for all your children if the 5-year-old is the oldest. Hey, well, Leo's 5, so we're gonna do 5 stories tonight as always. Okay, next story of my childhood is about the time, I don't know what I'm gonna say, but I know I'm gonna say something because I'm gonna picture something, and you just dive in. And you are off and running. When was the last time you saw a story about a kid feeding the pigs? I never have. There's probably one out there, or the kid feeding the pigs who had to thaw out the frozen pipe.
Yeah, that's classic.
I haven't seen a book like that, but let's be honest, that probably would sell in some way and become a major book, right? If you had an illustrator and just told true stories, because those books come from somewhere. So you're a living book. You're a living history. That's the other thing. Sometimes we'll get children in the sessions that I do these, and I'll say, "Okay, you guys can stay. If anyone who's willing to stay, wants to stay, we're gonna ask you to tell some stories." And some 6-year-olds are, "Yeah, I'll do it," and they'll tell stories with the adults, because everyone has a story of their childhood. Because all we know is the moment we're in now. All we know is we were younger, right? And a 6-year-old will tell a story about when they were young, when they were 3, and now their story is just as riveting, from their perspective, and because their story follows the same structure. They're picturing something. We say, what happened next? And they tell you what happened next. And it just goes and goes. Imagine being a 3-year-old who loves storytelling so much that they're going to do it and be a person who gets all those benefits as an adolescent of story sharing, the reduced stress and all of that, and who carries that on. An inquisitive person who probably will do the same thing with their kids someday. Yeah. So Roman, you just dive in and start telling true stories. Make the stories, do everything else you're doing. All you need is one more thing to do, right? Do everything else you're doing with early literacy, telling story, reading stories, making up stories. The make-believe stories are awesome. And then on top of that, tell a few true stories of your childhood every night.